My brother-in-law laughed when I got fired because he secretly reported me. So I got hired at his dream job and became his manager. So I'd just been fired. The reason? Violations of confidentiality protocols and inappropriate handling of client data. Except that was not true. I know people say that all the time. I didn't do it. But seriously, I'm that coworker who triple checks every email before sending it. The one who tells other people to encrypt files. The one who brings extra post-its to meetings in case someone forgets theirs. So yeah, being accused of basically leaking sensitive info, it felt like someone had just slapped me across the face and said, "Smile." I was stunned, frozen. The whole meeting was a blur of HR lingo, and this is final energy. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just sat there while my manager, who I trained by the way, avoided eye contact like I was contagious. Once I got to my car, I finally broke. I wasn't sobbing or anything. It was worse. I just sat there, staring at my own reflection in the windshield like, what just happened? And then my phone buzzed. It was a group chat, fam squad, which yes, is as cringy as it sounds. My husband's siblings and a few cousins. Normally it's just memes and birthday plans, but today there was a message from Evan, my brother-in-law, my husband's little brother, the guy who wears designer cologne to game night and once tried to explain crypto to my grandma. He wrote, "Guess karma hits fast. Heard somebody just got canned." That's all it said. No context. I stared at it, my stomach dropping like I missed a stare. How did he know? I hadn't told anyone yet, not even my husband. Tar said they weren't making it public. I hadn't posted. I hadn't even processed it myself. So how did Evan know? And why was he so gleeful about it? I didn't reply. I couldn't. But I opened his message again later that night. And again the next morning. Like my brain couldn't let it go. Because the more I thought about it, the more I remembered that weird conversation at Thanksgiving. And the time he made that offhand joke about my job being too easy. And that one time when I helped him fix his resume, where he straight up asked me if I'd recommend him at my company. And I had said no. Not because I was mean, but because he had a reputation. Gossip, shortcuts, weird boundary stuff. I didn't want to stick my neck out. So now I'm sitting there thinking, was this payback? And worse, did he do something to actually make this happen? I didn't have proof. Not yet. But something felt really off. Before I get deeper into this, I'd love to know what city, state, or country you're watching from today. Drop it in the comments below. And if stories about finding your voice and standing your ground speak to you, hit that like button and consider subscribing so you never miss the next one. Thank you, and let's keep going. The next day, I woke up at 4:30 a.m. like my brain had hit the emergency alarm. I wasn't even thinking clearly, just this foggy, panicked mix of rage and confusion. You know that feeling where your body's like, we need answers now, but your mind's still half asleep? That. I grabbed my phone and started scrolling through old texts. Evan wasn't someone I normally paid that much attention to. He was always the guy on the outskirts, too loud at family dinners, always talking about his next big idea but never actually working a real job longer than 6 months. But when I started looking through our last few convos, things clicked. 2 months ago, he messaged me completely out of nowhere asking what programs we used for client file management. Like, out of the blue. He said he was just curious because he was trying to design a better system for a friend's startup. I remember thinking it was a weird question at the time, but I brushed it off. Said I couldn't really share specifics. He pushed a bit, then dropped it. Now, it looked a lot more suspicious. Especially considering the report that got me fired was about unauthorized systems access and unsecure file sharing. And he knew I got fired within hours of it happening. Hours. I still hadn't told anyone, not even my parents. My husband had been out of town for a work trip and wasn't due back till the weekend. So unless he told Evan and Evan just happened to message immediately after, nah, something was up. I decided to do what any rational person would do when they suspect someone sabotaged them. I called my best friend, Mina. Now, Mina's one of those people who should honestly charge by the hour. She has this therapist energy, but with better insults. I could call her at 2 a.m. sobbing over printer ink and she'd still answer with, "Okay, breathe. Who do we hate?" I told her everything, from the sudden firing to the weird group chat message to the texts about my company's systems. She listened, dead silent, until I was done. Then she said, "Girl, he did it." Right. I exploded. But I have no proof. That man has always given passive-aggressive weasel vibes. You know he did it. I groaned. But like, how would he even report me? She paused. Then asked slowly, "You said you helped him with his resume once, yeah?" I froze. 'Cause I did. Last year, he'd been between opportunities again and asked me to look over his resume before he applied to, quote, a bunch of marketing agencies like yours. He'd emailed me his resume, and in return, I'd forwarded him some internal job board links from my company. Like an idiot. "Oh my gosh," I whispered. "He had access." "Babe," Mina said, "he didn't just have access. He had motive." That's when I remembered something else. 3 weeks ago, I bumped into Evan at my in-laws' house. Just casual, random Sunday dinner. He asked how work was going, and I told him I was in the middle of a huge pitch. Huge client. Like $1 million stakes. And he looked at me, smirking. "I hope you don't mess it up," he'd said. I thought it was a joke. But now I wasn't so sure. So I did something a little unhinged. I logged into my old work laptop, they hadn't disabled it yet, and started going through every single login record I could find. Downloads, emails, IP addresses. I wasn't a tech genius or anything, but I knew where to look. And guess what? 2 weeks before I got fired, someone had logged in using my credentials, from a city 2 hours away, not even near my house. That was not me. I took screenshots of everything, the login location, timestamps, even the names of the files that were accessed, and I sat there staring at them, heart pounding, because whoever did this used my name to access confidential info right before a fake anonymous tip reported me for doing exactly that. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a setup, and I was starting to think my husband's charming, overconfident little brother might have had something to do with it. So now I had proof, not courtroom evidence or anything, but enough to make my stomach twist in that, oh, this isn't just bad luck kind of way. Someone had impersonated me on a remote login, files were accessed, tip was sent, and less than 2 weeks later I was out of a job. I stared at those screenshots for probably half an hour. Then I did what any sane person would do in 2025. I printed them, in color, on glossy paper, because if I was going down, I was at least going down with visuals. But the wildest part? I still hadn't told my husband. It wasn't because I didn't trust him, I did, mostly. But his relationship with Evan had always been this weird mix of blind loyalty and selective amnesia. Evan could crash a rental car and somehow he'd be the one consoled. It was exhausting. So I decided to wait, just a little longer, just until I had something more than a gut feeling and some shady vibes. I needed a name on that login, and for that I needed help. So I called my cousin Asha. Asha is one of those quietly terrifying people. She works in cybersecurity and never uses the same password twice. Like ever. Her house doesn't even have Alexa because too many ears. She once found out her ex was cheating just from syncing his smartwatch to her iPad accidentally. I told her what happened, sent her the screenshots, and asked if there was any way to trace that IP address back to a person. She was quiet for a few seconds. Then she said, "Give me 2 hours." I didn't ask questions. I just waited. And y'all, 2 hours later, she sent me a screenshot from a basic reverse IP lookup tool she'd cross-referenced with a user database from a freelance job board. And there it was. The name, Evan J. Waters. He created a profile for remote freelance consulting and listed the same general location the unauthorized login came from. Same device type, same browser version, same ISP. She even found a cached copy of an old forum post he made asking how to spoof access credentials for password-restricted accounts in cloud-based portals. What the actual F? This man really pulled a villain monologue on a tech forum. I couldn't believe it. Not fully. Even with the evidence, part of me wanted to scream, "No way! He wouldn't go this far." But then I remembered that smug little message in the family chat, and how quick he was to joke about me getting fired. This wasn't some random grudge or fluke. He'd gone out of his way to destroy me. And for what? Because I didn't get him a job? Because I had a career and he didn't? Because I had something he felt entitled to? Whatever the reason was, it didn't matter. What mattered now was what I was going to do about it. And trust me, I wasn't about to just move on. Fast forward 4 days. My husband came home from his trip, totally unaware of the slow-motion hurricane building in our apartment. He walked in, saw me sitting at the kitchen table with printed screenshots, highlighters, sticky notes, and a very intense playlist playing in the background, and immediately froze. "What is happening?" he asked, setting his bag down slowly. "I'm building a case." He blinked. "Okay, against?" I looked him dead in the eye. "Your brother." Pause. Then, what did Evan do now? I told him everything. From the weird text messages to the fake login to the tip-off to the digital breadcrumbs that all traced back to Evan. I even showed him the forum post, the freelance profile, the whole messy digital paper trail. My husband sat there, silent, looking more and more pale by the second. He wouldn't, he started. I mean, yeah, okay, Evan's a pain. But this is next level. I just stared at him. "Do you think I'm making this up?" "No," he said quickly. No. Wow. He scrolled through the screenshots again, like maybe this time they'd say something different. Then he put the phone down and sighed. "Okay, what do you want to do?" And that, my friends, was the moment I knew. He believed me. Fully. What's next? So I told him, "I'm not going to HR. Not yet. I'm not going to sue. But I am going to find out exactly why he did this, and make sure he never gets the chance to do it to anyone else." My husband nodded slowly. "Okay." Then he stood up, walked to the fridge, grabbed 2 sodas, and handed me one like we were about to plan a bank heist. And honestly, that's kind of what it felt like. So here's the thing about being fired for something you didn't do. First, you spiral. Question everything. Your confidence crumbles, your inbox is a graveyard, and even your dog starts looking at you like, "You good?" But after that, after the crying and the rage and the random Google searches like, "Can you sue your in-laws?" you hit a point where something shifts. You stop spiraling. And you start scheming. That was me 2 weeks post-firing with my resume freshly polished, my LinkedIn glowing like a lighthouse in a thunderstorm, and a very specific goal. Get back on my feet, and maybe, if the universe was feeling spicy, land somewhere that would really bother Evan. I wasn't trying to be petty. Okay, maybe a little. But I wasn't about to let his nonsense keep me down. So I started applying. A lot. Like 15 tabs open at once level applying. Marketing roles, strategy leads, client success, mostly mid to senior level. I figured I'd be job hunting for months, but then something weird happened. A recruiter reached out to me. The company? Peck Strategies. Now if that name sounds mildly dramatic, that's because it is. Peck's was the cool kid agency. Think sleek tech startups, edgy brand campaigns, espresso machines in the bathroom type vibes. I'd actually applied there years ago and never heard back, but this time they wanted me. The recruiter said they'd seen my campaign work through a client crossover and had heard great things, which was hilarious considering I'd just been fired. I didn't ask questions. I scheduled the interview, and y'all, I nailed it. The whole vibe was different, respectful, collaborative. The hiring manager actually listened to me. They asked real questions, not just what's your biggest weakness BS. Felt right. 2 days later, I got the offer. Senior Marketing Director. Fully remote, flexible hours, $30,000 more than my last job. I was stunned. Ecstatic. A little suspicious it was a prank, honestly. But the best part? A week before my start date, I got access to the internal team directory. And guess whose name popped up under the junior campaign associate role? Yep, Evan J. Waters. I stared at the screen for a solid 30 seconds. Then I burst out laughing. Like full-on cackled. Alone. In my kitchen. I texted Mina immediately. You're not gonna believe this. He works here. Clown works at my new job. Who? She asks. Evan. I'm his boss. She called me instantly, screaming into the phone. This isn't real. There's no way the universe lined this up. But it did. It so did. I started 2 weeks later, and I was very, very quiet about it. I didn't tell Evan. I didn't even look at him in the team Slack. I acted like I didn't know a single soul at the company, just a sweet little fresh hire trying to find the bathroom and understand the CRM system. But behind the scenes, I was documenting everything, watching how he worked, tracking his assignments, and slowly noticing a pattern. He was doing the bare minimum, turning in lazy copy, ghosting group calls, taking credit for work others were doing. And worst of all, he was sliding into DMs trying to network with female team members in a way that made me uncomfortable, and I was only seeing screenshots. It wasn't just that he'd sabotaged me. He was doing it here too, just in smaller, sneakier ways. And the more I saw, the more I realized this wasn't just personal revenge anymore. It was damage control. Because if I didn't stop him now, he was gonna do it again. To someone else. To maybe everyone. And lucky for me this time, I was in the perfect position to make it happen. You'd think, right, that if someone committed full-blown digital sabotage and then somehow ended up working under the person they betrayed, they'd maybe, I don't know, show an ounce of humility? Not Evan. Not even close. From day one, he walked into team Zoom calls like he ran the place. Always talking over people, always suggesting ideas that were just slightly rebranded versions of what someone else already said. He had that fake it till you make it energy, but without the make it part. And me? I was quiet. Professional. Not cold, just neutral. Never gave him any indication that I knew a single thing about what he'd done. I even smiled during team intros like, oh hey, haven't seen you in a while. Meanwhile, inside, I was plotting. Because if there's one thing corporate taught me, it's this. People like Evan don't get taken down by drama. They get taken down by documentation. So I started tracking. Not secretly, just thoroughly. Whenever he missed a deadline, I noted it. When he turned in a deck that was 40% AI-generated buzzwords and 60% recycled templates from last quarter, I flagged it, gently. Let's loop in design on this. Hey, have you verified this client data? And when he passive-aggressively tried to correct me in a meeting, I let him, and then corrected him back with receipts, in front of everyone. The look on his face when I pulled up the actual campaign performance metrics mid-call? Chef's kiss. But still, I wasn't rushing anything. I wanted the story to build. I wanted the pattern to emerge. Because here's the thing about Apex, they don't fire people lightly. They're let's collect 6 months of data first kind of folks, which worked perfectly in my favor, cause that gave me time. And during that time, I dug deeper. I started casually asking around. Had anyone ever had weird run-ins with Evan? Any odd messages? Miscommunications? People opened up real fast. One junior copywriter told me Evan once edited her Google Doc after she submitted it to the creative director, and claimed it as a collaboration. Another guy from accounts said Evan always forgot to CC him on updates when clients had complaints, meaning the feedback never got logged properly. And someone else? They'd actually caught Evan whispering that I only got hired because of connections, which was hilarious because I didn't have connections. I got in here by doing the actual work, something Evan wouldn't recognize if it bit him. So yeah, he wasn't just annoying. He was actively undermining people. But I still wasn't ready to pull the plug. Not yet. Because then, plot twist incoming, I found something that changed the game. Late one Friday, I was updating our campaign archives, just routine cleanup, and I found a folder, a private one, sloppily named, sitting in a shared drive that he must have forgotten to hide. Inside, he'd saved dozens of our internal strategy templates, with notes like rework for personal deck and use W/out branding. Y'all, he was building his own personal portfolio using confidential company content. This man was literally gearing up to ghost the company and pitch Apex work as his own. I sat there, blinking at my screen, feeling that familiar rage rise up. But this time it wasn't panic. It was purpose. 'Cause now I didn't just have behavioral receipts. I had hard evidence of ethics violations. You know what that means? It means I was finally ready to make my move. And he still had no idea. You ever watch someone dig their own grave, and they're out here whistling while they do it? That was Evan. Whistling metaphorically, obviously. In real life, he was too busy cutting people off in meetings and pretending to understand words like conversion funnel. But I could see it, his overconfidence. The way he was walking around like he owned the floor, even though he was still technically remote and barely showed up to mandatory syncs. Meanwhile, I was playing the quiet game. Smiling, nodding, leading strategy meetings and letting him believe he was still skating by unnoticed. But behind the scenes, I was aligning. See, here's what a lot of people miss about revenge. It's not about the gotcha moment. It's about the foundation. If you want it to stick, if you want that sweet, poetic justice to actually matter, you need to build it slow, brick by brick. So I started looping in people who mattered. Our head of HR? I scheduled a leadership alignment check-in. Our head of legal? I casually mentioned some internal compliance issues I'd observed. Nothing specific, just enough to plant the seed. My goal wasn't to drop the bomb. It was to prepare the soil. Then I waited. And just like I knew he would, Evan handed me the final spark on a silver platter. It was during a cross-functional call with a big client, a legacy account we'd just inherited and one of the most sensitive we'd handled all year. I'd built the entire proposal deck myself, down to the visuals, the tone, the ROI charts, everything. Evan was supposed to observe. That was it. Observe. But instead, mid-call, this man jumps in with, "Yeah, I actually worked on this strategy personally. Happy to walk you through the vision here." And then he screen shared the deck. He didn't even change the font, y'all. I sat there, jaw clenched, pretending to smile while he walked through my months of work like it was his brainchild. He got a few things wrong, fumbled some numbers, and mispronounced the client's name, which was ironic considering how much he wanted to lead. But when the call ended, I stayed back. And so did the account exec and our client success manager, both of whom messaged me privately during the call like, is he okay? And that was your deck, right? That was the moment I knew I had backup. So that same night, I sent a calm, professional email to HR and CC'd our department lead. Subject: concerns regarding team member conduct and data misuse. The body of the email? Beautiful. Bullet points. Screenshots. Slack messages. Timeline of events. Links to the folder where he'd saved the confidential files for his personal portfolio. Timestamps. And, the cherry on top, a forward of an email he'd sent to a friend using his company account that said, "Working on a few internal templates, I'm planning to rework for side clients soon. Don't tell anyone." The man snitched on himself with an emoji. You can't make this stuff up. I wasn't ready to hand that over until I saw how Apex handled this. But I hit send. And I slept like a baby that night. Next morning, HR emailed me back at 8:02 a.m. "Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We'll begin an internal review immediately." By 10:17 a.m., Evan was offline on Slack. By noon, he was out for the day. And by Friday, he was gone. No goodbye message. No moving on to new opportunities LinkedIn post. Just vanished. And I'd love to tell you I danced around the living room or blasted victory music, but honestly, I just felt quiet. Not because I regretted it, but because this man had messed with my life, tried to ruin my reputation, laughed when I lost everything, and now I had taken away the one job he actually cared about. And the best part? He still didn't know I was the one who did it. Yet, Evan was gone. Poof. No more smug little side comments in team meetings. He just disappeared like he'd never even been part of the company, and I thought that would be the end of it. Like cool, done, game over, I won, let's move on. But of course Evan wasn't going out that easy. 2 weeks later, he showed up at my house. Let me set the scene. It's a Thursday. I'm in sweatpants, drinking matcha, and watching an ASMR video of someone cleaning a stove because apparently that's what my brain finds soothing now. And then, ding dong, I open the door and there he is, Evan, standing on my porch like we were about to have a friendly little catch-up over tea. He's wearing sunglasses like he's in hiding and holding what looked like a manila envelope. I said. What you want? He takes off his glasses all dramatically and says, "We need to talk." I laughed. Do we though? He stepped forward like he was expecting to be invited in. I didn't move. Look, he said. I know it was you. I raised an eyebrow. You're gonna have to narrow that down, champ. You reported me, he snapped. Don't play dumb. So the realization had hit. Cute. I crossed my arms. So, let me get this straight. You're mad because someone reported you for doing the exact things you actually did? That's not the point, he snapped. Oh, I think it is the point. His face turned red. You set me up. That I actually laughed. No, Evan. You set yourself up. I just watched it happen. Carefully. With receipts. He looked like he was about to explode. You think you're so smart, he hissed. Just because you're good at playing corporate politics? I tilted my head. No. I think I'm smart because I didn't use company resources to build a side hustle portfolio, lie about campaign work, and then email it to my friends from my work account. Like, do you hear yourself? He took a deep breath, clearly trying to stay composed. Then he pulled the envelope from under his arm and held it out. I didn't take it. What's that? It's everything, he said. Proof of what you did to me. I'm not gonna let you get away with it. Now, I hadn't planned to say what came out of my mouth next. Just happened. Months of restraint finally cracked just enough for one clean sentence to slip out. You mean like how you got me fired from my last job with a fake tip and a spoof login? He froze. You could hear a leaf hit the ground. He swallowed. I don't know what you're talking about. I took a step forward. Yeah, you do. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I've got your IP trail, your forum posts, your sketchy little freelance profile. I even know what day you logged in using my credentials. Wanna know how? Silence. I kept going. Because I saved the security logs. Because I tracked it. Because I didn't delete the emails you forgot were traceable. And because I've been 3 steps ahead of you since the second you gloated in that group chat. His mouth opened like he was about to speak, but nothing came out. So I smiled. You played yourself, Evan. You came into my house, into my company, and tried to steal the work I built. And now you're mad you got caught? Please. I finally took the envelope from his hand and held it up like a sad little prop. You can take this back. I don't need whatever tantrum letter you wrote in here. I stepped back inside, and before I shut the door, I added, oh, and by the way, you're lucky I haven't taken this to my lawyer yet. Because the only reason I haven't is because you're not worth the retainer. Door closed. Months of anxiety, silence, holding it in. All of it finally out. And Evan? He didn't show up again. But I knew better. Guys like him always resurface eventually. The difference now? I'd be ready. After that final confrontation on my porch, I half expected Evan to try something else. Maybe send a long-winded email begging for forgiveness. Maybe go nuclear and try to spin some dramatic I-was-framed sob story to the family. Maybe even, in true Evan fashion, pitch himself as a victim of toxic corporate culture on LinkedIn with one of those cringy, sometimes doors close so better ones open posts. But nothing. He went dark. And I went thriving. Hex had been skeptical of his behavior long before I came on board. I just gave them the missing puzzle piece. 3 got let go, there was this weird hush over the company. People stopped tiptoeing. Collaboration got easier. Deadlines felt less like landmines. It was subtle but real. 2 months after he left, our department head pulled me into a one-on-one. I just want to say, she said, you handled everything with a level of professionalism that's honestly rare. I thanked her, not entirely sure where she was going. Then she smiled. We're creating a new internal mentorship initiative. You'd be the lead. It's a big deal. We want to grow junior talent into actual contributors, not just talkers. I almost laughed at the irony, because that was Evan's dream, the role he used to joke about in the family group chat. One day I'll run my own division, he said once, sipping LaCroix like it was champagne. Mentor people. Build an empire. Now that dream had a new name on the office door. Mine. Fast forward a little. It's a sunny Saturday. I'm doing my usual errand run, living my little post-sabotage revenge-era life. I stop into a local bookstore to pick up something from Mina. She's in her astrology phase, don't ask. And guess who I see behind the counter? Yup. Evan. But not like, I'm just helping out for a friend vibes. Like employee of the month vibes. He didn't see me at first. He was bagging someone's novelty puzzle and complaining about the register system being ancient. I waited until he was free, then stepped up with my book. He looked up, and I swear, his whole soul deflated. I smiled, calm and collected. Hey, I said. Didn't know you worked here. He swallowed. It's temporary. I nodded like I believed him. Cool. How's the new role treating you? He looked like he wanted to crawl into the floor tiles. Fine. Good, I said, taking my receipt. Hope you're finally learning how to back up your files properly. He flinched. I didn't wait for a reply. Just walked out, book in hand, heart light, shoulders high. I used to think justice had to look like a courtroom. Or an apology. Or some dramatic confession where the villain admits everything and the clouds part and suddenly everything makes sense. But real life's quieter than that. Sometimes justice is just knowing the truth. Evan disappeared from my company. He never resurfaced in the family group chat again. My husband never talked about it directly, but he unfollowed Evan on socials and started calling his mom a little more often, like he was quietly trying to rebalance the family dynamic. I didn't need him to pick a side. He'd already picked one, mine. And honestly, that meant more than any shouting match ever could. Things got better in waves. I got promoted again. Not with fireworks, just a quiet Slack message from my department head and a Zoom with HR. I started mentoring 2 new hires. I helped land a new 7-figure client account. I stopped flinching when my email pinged. I started sleeping through the night again. And one day I logged into LinkedIn just to clear out my notifications, and guess whose name popped up in the People You May Know section? Evan J. Waters. New title, freelance marketing consultant. No company name. No mutuals. The story was over. He had tried to take something from me. My career, my credibility, my peace. But all he did was delay me a few months and give me a really, really good story to tell someday. So yeah, if you're listening to this and thinking, whoa, that's wild, trust me. I know. I didn't expect to be the main character in a slow burn sabotage thriller, but here we are. Thanks for listening. Seriously. If you like the story, don't forget to like, comment, and consider subscribing. And if you've had a similar experience, I'd really love to hear it down in the comments. We're stronger when we share. Take care.